Okay, good morning. I guess I'll call the meeting to order. Voting procedure consensus will be by majority vote. And if there is a tie, then how do we do that, Margaret? How do we do a tie? Shouldn't be a tie. I don't think that's in there. There you go. Should there be more than one nomination for a position, a secret ballot would be taken with the candidate receiving the majority of the votes declared successful for the position. Majority being 4 or more, and everybody's here, so that should work. In the case where a clear majority is not successful in the first vote, then the voting would continue on first and second choice only, and the third and subsequent parties would be eliminated. So that means if there's 3 for a position, if there's a tie, then we would eliminate the third, if possible. And likely there would be a possibility of removing that because there is odd numbers. And only on the third and subsequent parties would be eliminated. This process would continue until a clear majority is successful. Okay. Any questions on that? Thanks, Margaret. They're the new ones, but it work now, Ben? Perfect. Thanks, Ben. So I'll start off with nomination for Reeve. Is there any nominations for Reeve? Councillor Eichert?
I'll nominate Amber Link for
Councillor Link for Reeve. Okay. Is there any, do you accept the nomination? Yes. Is there any further nominations? Councillor Armstrong?
I'll nominate Councillor Kester.
Councillor Kester? Do you accept the nomination? Okay. For a third time, is there any nominations for Reeve? Councillor Wilson, did you have your hand up? Okay. So I'll close the nominations for Reeve. So there is 2 nominations before us. And Margaret and I will hand out a ballot. And if you can indicate on the ballot, who is your choice for Reeve?
Can we have a little
Forum?
From them to find out what their platform is?
Most certainly.
Thank you.
Councillor Kester, do you want to come up and speak first? Or do you want to just speak from there? You can just speak from there. I'll go sit down.
I haven't even given that much thought what I would say. I guess I've been Reeve for 7 years. Ben is, I guess we've been here for 15 years with Councillor Armstrong. And my platform has always been open and the welfare of the counties come first. All the councillors, I hold them very accountable and in their dealings with the public, with each other, with committee work. I try and keep all discussions in meetings and not in the public forums type of things. I believe I've been honest in all my dealings, and I try to be extremely fair and open to ratepayers when they come in, especially first-time ratepayers, because they're not accustomed to the processes and stuff. Yeah, I would like to be Reeve again. I'm thinking, not to sound, I bring a lot of experience to the table. I've been here a long time, and I know a lot of stuff procedures, things that have went on in the past that I think are important and needed for the integrity of the county to build on it. I think everybody should have experience, the time, or to know exactly what some history is before they can to effectively run it. If you have no choice, that's fine too. But I offer my experience and my time, and I'll continue serving. Yeah, if there's any questions, fine. Thanks for the opportunity.
And I wasn't expecting this either, so I don't have anything prepared. I don't have a platform if I were to be representing the county as Reeve. I guess my sole purpose would be to represent council and represent our municipality as a whole. I agree with Glenn that I would want to always treat ratepayers with respect. I know that I have the time to commit to this. I try and represent the county well at all of the meetings I attend. One thing I would like to do is make sure I liaison well if I were to be in that role, particularly between like the CMRB and council. Bring good information back. And I'm not at all implying that you haven't done that, because we've been updated really well on what's happening with that, but I understand that that's a big part of the role. I think that I have integrity, and really the only thing that I am promising is that I will serve council and serve our municipality.
Okay, is there any other questions? If not, we'll go to the vote. We'll hand out the ballots. Okay, the votes have been tallied, and I am pleased to advise that Councillor Link is our new Reeve. So we'll get you sworn in.
So the next item on our agenda is the nomination of Deputy Reeve. Can I have a call for nominations?
I'd like to nominate Glenn.
Do we have any other nominations?
I'll nominate Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry. Glenn, do you accept the nomination for Deputy Reeve? Yeah. Okay. Scott, do you accept? Any other nominations for Deputy Reeve? And do we want a forum for this one or a statement from the candidates? Yes? Ben is saying yes? Sure. Okay.
First, I want to say thank you for electing me for last year, and it was a learning experience. I stepped up as much as I could and definitely got out of my comfort zone with some of the public appearances and whatnot, but I really enjoy being able to represent the county when the Reeve is not there, or being able to help as much as I can and foster relationships with other municipalities as much as we can. I'd like to continue that. Really enjoy the CMRB. It's a great tool, an opportunity for Wheatland County, I should say. And of course, Glenn has way more experience than I do. And so that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Only thing I would add, I would be the deputy reeve at the will of council. That's all. If you want me there, that's fine. If Scott did a good job last year, I have no qualms. I think council as a whole, we're young. I think we have a lot of opportunities. That's good. Thanks a lot for the support.
We'll have the ballots handed out.
I'm pleased to advise that we have a new Deputy Reeve, Deputy Reeve Kester.
Yeah.
Put that there.
Can I have a motion to destroy the ballots for Deputy Reeve and Reeve, please?
So moved.
All in favor? Can I have a motion for an adoption of the agenda, please? Thank you. All in favor? Next on our agenda is our code of conducts. So I think the process, Alan, will you just go around and do each individually?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The code of conduct is handed out. If there's any questions, I wasn't going to go through it,
Okay.
but if there is questions, I can entertain those at this time. This is council's code of conduct. It's been approved by bylaw, and I think everybody that's around the table here was involved in the approval on this. So, if
So you
not,
would just like
we'd ask that you sign these, and then we'll return those to Margaret, and they will be put on the website, that you understand the code of conduct. If there's any concern with that, if you let me know right now. Deputy Reeve Kester?
Yeah, I'd like to, I don't know if have some concerns with. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring it up, but I have some concerns with conduct of council. It's come to my attention in the last couple of weeks, and it's directly related to the code of conduct. If we'd like to go over it now or later.
If it's a code of conduct matter, if it's to do with the bylaw, I'd suggest go through it now, yes.
Okay. I'd like to start with 2.1, the purpose of the code of conduct. Mainly public confidence and respect. I'll let everyone kind of bruise through that. I go down to 4.1 A to H. Then go down to P. P. A to H, more or less. And then 5.1. And then just stop there. Then I have a few comments. What have I done now? There was, I know, and it's hard not to do, but I keep talking about the meeting before the meeting and to refrain from it. One or two counselors, need more than one. 2 counselors, 3 is worse, 4 is really bad, because then you have quorum. And then if it's out in public, like I have some concerns. There was some talk in a public place, and I'd gotten calls over it about opinions expressed on the lodge and land that was for the lodge, or a donation. A parcel of land that was added to multiple sites that could be chosen for, and comments were made in public. And it undermines council, because as you see, all debate should happen during a council meeting or board meeting. It's out there. I've heard it from my village, Rocky Ford. I've heard it in Strathmore. I've had calls on it. Some people are very upset over it. Bad part of it is it undermines confidence in the county as a whole when the public start hearing this, that we're having meetings, few of them, to get together. The perception is very bad. The next perception that'll come, that that you start making deals in private, right? You support this and that. It's all part of the gossip that happens or not, or if it is, it's immaterial. It's the perception. Same thing when this comes up at the board meeting where the effective comments are made at. You have to sit at that board meeting. You don't know how many of the councillors that are there know about this. You have to deal with that. The structure of that board is going to be, I don't know if it's compromised, but it's going to take some healing, right? All matters should be discussed at the board meeting. And, I know it's a hard thing to do. It's hard when you get together not to talk shop. But if you do it, you shouldn't do it, period. And that is something I've refrained from. I really try hard to do that. So then I also had marked down here 5.4. That when a decision is made by a majority vote, everything is to be supported, right? And I think that pretty well is my concerns. Any questions, I'll answer them. If not, I'll let it go at that.
Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you, Deputy Reeve Custer. So if everybody can sign their Councillor Code of Conduct and pass it to Margaret, please. Next on the agenda is a review of legislative policies.
I think Margaret had requested that everybody hand in their binders, correct, Margaret? And she would insert,
I think maybe just give them the top.
oh, they're included in the packet. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Can we have a motion to accept them? Thank you. All in favor? Next is the 2019 draft calendar, proposed dates and times for meetings. Is everybody still good with council being the first and third Tuesday?
Through the chair, I'd just like to say that we've already planned into 2019 for about 3 months, so I would say, yeah, let's keep it where it's at.
Let's have a motion then to maintain the calendar. All in favor? We need to set the annual ratepayer meeting for 2019, a date, and I'm assuming a location.
Firmly in the west.
We can have it in Lyalta or Nightingale if we want. Or Carsland or whatever, whenever it was last.
Carsland was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so as far as the west, we have had it in Cheadle and Carsland. We've had it as our standard was the first one. Gleason, that's 5, yeah, that's how many we've had, so.
Yeah, then I would say Lyalta would be good.
At the golf course.
No, at the Lyalta Hall. And as for dates,
So in the past, we've tried to do them in March so that we have a draft budget able to present to the public, and then also following that, then we can put together the final budget if there's any changes. But it's totally up to council. You can have it earlier or later. We'd like to get it done before April if possible, because we'd like to get the budget approved in April. So.
Through the chair, when we're planning our annual meeting, because we usually don't get that many there, I was thinking about this the other day. there's so much out there right now, and we've had a few seminars on it about this cannabis and what's going on with it. Would it be possible to have somebody come in and speak after do the annual meeting and have the speaker and spend an hour or whatever it takes to talk to the public about what it is and how it's being dealt with within the province and the county, and might get a little more participation in the annual meeting that way. That's I'll make that a motion if
As far, I would suggest as far as attendance goes, you probably get a lot of people at Alta. Yeah. Can't do drinks. So I'll make a motion to have the,
Once the motion's made, we'll double check on the availability of the layout to community hall, and if it's not available, and then we'll let you know.
that's it. Sounds good.
I guess my idea was there's so much in the papers, and I don't know if you can believe everything in the papers. If we've heard some pretty good stuff from the legal side and the other. I wouldn't say the legal side; they're too mundane, but 2 or 3 kind of a forum style where they can question them and talk about what's going on in the province, what's going on in the country, and what specifically Wheatland County is doing in the small towns and villages, and just so that people are kind of all on the same page.
I'd actually like to see it where it's basically what we're allowing to do in our county, so it's clearly addressed.
Yeah, because
And
I'm
then
starting to
maybe
get
some-
questions
yeah.
from some of the ratepayers, and I think, you know, so.
Next, we need to determine signing authorities for the banking.
Last year, we had the Reeve, the deputy Reeve, CEO, and the general manager of corporate.
So do you mean keep the same, like that same motion?
Yeah, might as well. I'll move that we keep Deputy Reeve, Councillor Eichert, CEO, and GM of Financial Services. Scott.
All in favor?
Sorry, Tom. Ask.
Margaret, what's the resolution for the audit services?
Whoever wasn't on that.
Is that just to affirm
Last year, we have them till 2019.
Right, because we did a multi-year.
So all we need is a motion just to accept.
So because we had approved, or auditors had been previously approved for a term from 2015 through to December 31st of 2019, we just basically need to approve for the next year.
Accept is information.
Accept, sorry. Can I have a motion to that effect?
I'll move.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Counselor.
All in favor? And now let's look at Egg Services Board. So the structure has changed, so the makeup of the Egg Services Board could potentially look different under the new Egg Services bylaw. What are people's thoughts on who would like to continue? Because I think it's optional now as council. Go ahead.
Sorry, so we do have 2 public members that are on for 1 more year, Margaret, or is it 2 more years?
2020.
2020. We do have 2 additional public members that have put their name forward. So what we're proposing, there's a number of different options for council to consider, but if it's okay with you, for the chair, I'd like to hand out the 2 applicants that submitted their name forward, and then council can kind of discuss if you want to appoint 4 members and 3 members of council, or 4 and 5, however you want to do that. So I believe there's a request for decision in the package, correct?
But we can have those 2 and all of council, can we not? Because the max was 11, I believe.
No, I think the max is 9.
Oh, okay.
So it would mean that there'd be 2 councillors who would have to potentially drop out of the Ag Service Board if you had all 4. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is an RFD in the package.
So there's 3 options. On page 22. Right. Okay. And then we should determine who of council. The committee sheets? Okay, perfect. That would probably be better.
Wanting to know what
You can make up whoever you want.
I'll just give everybody a minute to review the applicants that were just submitted. So at this point, we need to determine the makeup of the board if we would like it to consist of. Option A is 5 voting members with a number of council and members at large, or 7 or 9, and then whether we would like to approve the new members at large applicants that we have. Thoughts, discussion?
I had brought one of these people forward. I had suggested that they come, and I would, in the interest of the Ag Service, for the experience needed there, I would definitely support the one from my division, and I would step aside. The only thing I would request, that if it was possible that as a counselor, I could still attend the ASB tour, because I found that very informative, and things like that. I don't know if that would work or not. That's just a suggestion, because I get a lot out of that. But I think for the makeup going forward, I think this is what I'd like to see. Rely on the experience of the people that do the industry. So.
Other comments?
I like both letters. What I like about them is they both appear to be fairly young in the thing, and they're both interested in becoming members. They want to be involved in Ag Service. I think that's very important, that we nurture this and continue it. I would make whatever combination we can to accept them both. I don't know what the term would be. Is it 2 years or 3 years or 4?
I believe it's been 3 years, Margaret, in the past, correct?
Three years? Yeah, if the other term is 1 more year, that would provide continuity to that,
Correct.
right?
And just for council's information, if there is a board member that you don't feel is suitable anymore, they can be removed at any time by motion of council. So it doesn't have to go to the org meeting. And that goes for council members, I suppose, that are sitting on the Ag Service Board too.
Right.
So just.
Yeah, they
sort of-
sit there at the leisure of council. Yeah, I would like to see both of them included, however we do it.
Just a question. I'm interested, like, I'm talking to one of my constituents, which would be a real bonus if that was the case. I wouldn't, what happens with the balance if I ask them to, like, if they agree to join, step up, then I would have no problem stepping down. So, but what is the, like, because the makeup would be 4 and 5, I think is sort of what the general consensus I'm getting. But what happens with that, if that changes, it'd be 5 and 4, can that be done? Or does that have to be redone?
Chairman, I can kind of speak to that. I believe it's covered in 5.1. The members of the board shall be appointed by council, may consist of council members and members at large, and shall have either 5, 7, or 9 voting members with a minimum of 3 council members. So your answer to your question is yes. You can do whatever you want. The 2 keys are a minimum of 3 council members and a maximum of 9 members on the board. Okay? Does that make it clear? No problem. So that's in section 5.1.
Now, in terms of timing, could administration speak to that? Like, can that happen after the organizational meeting?
Most certainly. That would be probably the proper process to follow on that would be if they submitted their information to myself or to Russ, and we could bring that forward to council for consideration and potentially the Ag Service Board and say, here's a member, and if you're willing to step aside, then you could make the motion that you're willing to step off the board and appoint this member. That makes sense? Thank you.
Well, through the chair, I like these 2. One of the big things is they're young, they're ambitious, and they're willing to get involved in the municipality. And I think that's a big, if they're willing to sit on this one, they're 5 years, 4 years, 8 years down the road, they may be willing to take the next step too. So I like the idea of having the young ones coming in that are actively farming. That goes where I was coming from a couple of years ago when I first brought this forward, is to get some depth in the Ag Service Board rather than just council.
So there is 3 potential options presented. So it's up to council, I guess, what option you'd like to choose. An appointment of these members, I guess, would be part of one of those options, or all 3 of those options potentially.
I just want to make sure, does anybody have problems with the existing board members? Just have to ask, I think. Everybody's happy with them, because we can remove them. Everybody's good with Rex and Barry. Thanks, Tom.
So if we're looking at approving, we would need 2 council members.
I would willingly step down in the interest of bringing some people in the industry that are there and the younger generation, the future generation, I should say. I want them to be leaders of their industry, so that's the first step.
It sounds like we're leaning towards option 3. Would somebody like to make a motion to that effect?
I'll move that option 3 be considered.
Thanks, Ben. All in favor? And then we'll do a separate motion to approve these members. Yeah. All in favor of Ben's motion? And then if we can have a second motion approving the members at large that have applied?
Sorry, can
Oh,
I just,
actually, so
Yeah.
you would like all of council excluding Councillor Clausen and Councillor Bigger,
yes, recorded in the motion,
the 2 members at large that are currently sitting and the 2 members at large that have applied.
correct.
So I will move that Brittany Walker replace Counselor Klassen on the Ag Service Board and Calvin Clemenson replace Counselor Biggard on the Ag Service Board.
And that the rest of the
And-
board continue to sit.
And the rest of the board continue to sit?
I never thought of this before, but to use the word replace, I think is maybe overbearing or,
Yeah, I
If you
think,
just name the.
I think just name the members
Yeah.
that you're appointing. I think start with yourself and just work your way
yeah.
up. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well,
And-
cancel that one.
Through the chair, before you put anything on the floor, when we're doing something like this, the way it's recorded in the minutes means a lot out in the public. So if we could put a prelude to what we're doing here and as to why we're doing it, not that we don't want Councillor Bigger and Councillor Clausen on the board, it's just they've stepped down because of a huge interest of some young farmers that would like to get involved, so that it looks like we're not throwing somebody out.
Well, and plus I don't want the farmers around Carsland to think that I don't want to support them. Is that I feel that there's more support through this, but I want it worded right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll try my best. I'll move that we have the members at large, members of the Ag Service Board. Maybe I'll do that at the end, Ben. Will that be okay? Myself, Jason Wilson, Reeve, Amber Link, Deputy Reeve, Glenn Kester, Councillor Tom Eichert, Councillor Ben Armstrong, and due to the interest of the Ag Service Board and bringing in new, younger producers that are leading the industry, Councillor Scott Klassen and Councillor Donner Biggard have decided to step down and let producers take their spot? Is that a little bit? A little bit? How about you do it, Ben?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, perfect.
Producer interest.
And I will move that Calvin Clemenson and Brittany Walker are part of the Ag Service Board as well.
And just, well, Barry and Rex are already on there, so the appointment of this contingent would be till October of 2021. If you could add that to your motion.
So your motion is just.
Till 2021.
All right. Thank you, guys.
just sorry to be a pest, but I think in our county connector with the next one that goes out, we do the center article or the front page article or whatever on what we're doing and why we're doing it around that process.
That's a good idea.
Okay. If that makes sense.
All right. If everybody wants to pull out their working copy of the 2018-19 committee list. Oh, that would be a good idea. Thanks, Glenn. All in favor of Jason's motion?
Whatever it was. Yeah, I look real smart. Yeah, I know.
Ouch.
Wow, man.
I'd like to make a motion too that we hand back these resumes probably and for privacy.
I'm ever overconfident, I'll just talk to Ben.
Do you want the resumes back? Or the applications? And then I was thinking for a format, do we want to just start at the top of the committee list and work our way down and see if people would like to make any changes? Jason handed mine to Margaret. So signing authorities, we've already determined. Egg Services Board. Alan, do you want a motion at the end of this? Yes. Okay, that's what I thought. Egg Services Board, I think we determined would be council, the 4 members at large, and Scott and Donna are making room for the additional members at large. Are there any other comments about that committee or that board? So then the Environmental Stewardship Award Subcommittee of the ASB. I think, will that be done at the first Egg Services?
That's done at the Ag Service Board. And just for your information, I had Margaret look it up this morning just to confirm the Municipal Planning Commission. We do have the provision that you do not have to be the chair, and
Right.
but that would be done at the first Municipal Planning Commission meeting where you appoint the chair and the co-chair.
Okay. So we also did have the 2017-2018 committee list circulated as well. So we can kind of use that and see if we want to make changes. So previously on the Environmental Stewardship Subcommittee, it was Councillor Wilson, Councillor Bigger, Councillor Eichert, with Councillor Armstrong as an alternate.
I'd like to continue on that one.
Are you okay staying as alternate? Okay. So we'll leave the environmental stewardship as it is unless there's anybody else interested? Or do they do that at ASB as well?
Requesting that that be deferred to
Oh, I see that right there.
ASB.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So we don't even have to talk about that right now. So let's move to the Environmental Steering Committee. We have Councillor Armstrong with Councillor Clausen as the alternate for that. Discussion? You'll
Yeah,
continue?
I'd like to stay on there too.
Is there anybody else that has a burning desire to be on that committee? Okay, so I think that one's all right. Yeah. The Alice Partnership will also be done at the ASB organizational meeting. The seed plants will be continued to be represented by the local councillors. Wheatland Housing Management Board. We currently have Glenn is the chair of that board. We have Councillor Eichert, myself, and Councillor Wilson as alternate. I was hoping that Jason might take my seat on that board, just so that I might have a little bit more time for the Metropolitan Region Board.
Yep, I'm glad to do it. I like old people. That's why me and Ben get along so well.
Glenn, you'll stay on it?
Alternate?
I can take your alternate if you would like. Or unless somebody else, Scott or Ben.
I want to take the next step, get a little closer. Yeah, you're in drum.
Right. So Scott or Donna, do you want alternate or? Okay, sure. So Scott will take alternate. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Just had a question. 3 is always on. Makeup of the board is 3 from the county, 2 from Strathmore, 1 from Rocky Ford, and 1 from Standard and Azar combined. The reason it's that way is Azar chose for it to be that way. And Wheatland County gets 3 because we provide roughly 65% or 70% of the requisition money that is required. It is requisitioned on the basis of equalized assessment. And there is one member from the Lions Club, which had a history of, I believe, before the lodge started, the Lions Club had a small place where they housed some seniors at the Armories building, if you remember where that was, or the library. Yeah, so they give that up to become part of, for the new lodge, and that's why they're in. So it's a little bit of history.
Thank you for that, Glenn. Wademza. So we currently have Donna, Glenn, and Scott sitting as alternate. You're good to stay, Glenn?
I'll stay.
Scott? Does anybody else have an interest? No? Okay. So Margaret, that will stay as it was. WFCSS, we currently have Donna and myself sitting with Jason as alternate. I would continue to sit if council's in agreement with that, unless Jason wants to take my seat
Do you want
full-time.
me to take your seat?
You don't. I know that already. Donna, are you? Does anybody else have an interest in WFCSS?
I'm always interested in it.
Are you?
Do you want the alternate then? Because I don't need the alternate there.
Sure, I'll go alternate.
They
if
would
you
really
don't.
appreciate that, Glenn.
Yeah, because they don't want me back at another meeting.
Donna and myself. The Central RMA. I'll represent.
With alternate as deputy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who was that?
We're not discussing that. But thank you for that comment.
Yeah.
Okay, Drumheller and District Solid Waste Management.
I really enjoyed that meeting there, Ben. Actually, yeah. I'd like to stay as alternate.
Ben, are you willing to continue representing?
He has to if he's chair.
He has to. Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay, we'll leave that one as it is.
Anybody else wants it, they can,
Oh, I'd like to sit in on another meeting. I really enjoyed it. I didn't think there'd be that much to discuss at it, but there is a lot of things and a lot to take into account.
Okay, so we'll leave that one as it is, yep. Bow River Basin Council.
Okay, so this is the thing. I don't feel the need to put somebody on this board. Or the Red Deer Watershed. And Brian wants me to sit as, I don't think it is even necessary to have somebody. I don't even think we should be paying membership in this thing.
I disagree with you paying membership. As far as sitting on the board, I mean, they have a very, very strong direction that they're doing. It's very well established. I think there's definite benefits to us being part of it. To sit there, to go to the meetings, I don't feel that it's necessary. The Red Deer one, actually, I never attended any this year. They never, up until we had the thing with Brenda being not on there, I didn't even, nobody ever got a hold of me or anything like that. I never got any information prior to that. The Bow River Basin, yeah, I mean, there is value there. I could see it something going once a year maybe to a conference, and you'd probably get just as much out of what they're doing. A lot of what I picked up on it is the headwaters. Headwaters projects is pretty much all it is. And there's nothing that we can do to change that, I don't think. And that's,
So, through the chair, I agree with you, Scott, on the Red Deer River one. I sat on that for a number of years, and there was really, I couldn't, all the meetings I went to, I could never see any tie into what we were doing on this side. There was some information there, but that was it. But the Bow River one, I sat on that years ago through when I was on Unifarm, and I seen how that thing developed and came to where it was, and there was no agricultural representation on there to start with. And we do have the WID running through our area. We have strong ties to the Bow River. I think we need to stay involved with the Bow River one, somehow, some way. But
Just one thing, I guess. We do have staff members that do attend the meetings as well. So if you want to report back from them, that's another way to handle that, just so that everybody knows.
through the chair, I agree with Alan. Staff does go, and staff brings a strong representation to it, but there's a difference between staff and council. When council attends and the other members that are attending there, there's the communication or the networking that happens in the background and some of the things. And I don't know, I've been to one for quite a few years, but I remember when we were on there before, there was damn little agricultural representation on there, and it was a hard fight to get some strong ag support in there.
That's why I don't like.
Well, if you don't belong and you don't participate, you put up with what they do. Eventually.
Yeah. I remember when we started on the Bow River, we had Newell County in here really advocating for it. And since the Bow River has moved along, the phosphorus loading has been a big issue. And for the producers of the area, I think we have to keep that. If staff is capable of reporting on that, I'm okay on it for a year. We can leave it go. As far as the red deer, I find that, I can't say a generation, but it's a few years behind the Bow River. Whatever the Bow River do, they start doing it. So I can see the phosphorus coming down on that as they grow and mature. If we got staff going and reporting, and if they're attending the meetings, okay. But otherwise, I would caution about not going, because, especially for the producers in this phosphorus, it can be a big deal. And
So with that commentary, do you think,
Can we try a staff member for 1 year?
well, I'm just wondering if you stay with your name, so you can represent if there's something relevant that comes up or an event that you want to attend, or there's somewhere where they need council or municipal input. But it's not costing us any money if you're not, you know what I mean?
An annual fee to be members of both of these organizations.
But whether we have a counselor representing,
Right.
like on the committee, quote unquote.
Just, if you're representing that board for Wheatland County and you don't show up, it does send potentially a message to the board. So if Councillor Wilson maybe doesn't feel that it's suitable for him, or maybe somebody else might, but I mean, to not attend the meetings,
Well,
that's,
we don't
I guess.
really- there's an AGM and there's forums, and forums are open to anyone.
It's only the
If-
directors that meet regularly.
Yeah, it's only the directors that meet regularly, and Brian was looking to placement for the directors.
So the other option is, yeah, so currently there is 2 representatives and an alternate, so that could be reduced potentially to have 1 on there.
Is there somebody that would be like willing to represent and possibly as a director, if that's a way to.
Like a board of directors for this thing. Well, I'll give Brian your number.
I have no idea.
Glenn, is that something, like, would you be interested in representing from the agricultural perspective? Because what I'm hearing is, and I'm not, no, no offense, I'm just wondering if we had more of that agriculture perspective. I know you do. Isn't it like 24 right now if you count the calves? 28, right?
I would sit. The history of the Bow River, where it's really started, was the city of Calgary protection of their watershed.
Right.
And that is the driver of the Bow River.
And that's why it's
Protection,
mainly the headwaters.
the headwaters. So what happens ahead should happen behind, and I think that's where the disconnect is. And I think it's important, maybe, like if Tom was to sit being on the land use, having knowledge of that, that would help out if he continues on the land. And I think that's a good, kind of rounds that out too, if he would sit, yeah.
Well,
And I
can
would go
stay on
to.
there too. I mean, I'll just go to, maybe the board of directors, maybe I'm just too quick to judge and the board of directors is better than the forum.
But if you're not, if you don't feel like you want to do it, there's lots of councillors sitting here that would do it. Tom said he would, Glenn said he would, and I remember, I'll tell you again, I remember back to when we first started and going as a uniform rep on there, and the discussion around the table about pulling agriculture out of that river and not allowing agriculture access to that river was pretty strong. They weren't fussy about it either. They didn't care what it was. They wanted, and like Glenn said, this is a protection. So you step away from it and you get what you pay for. So if Glenn and Tom are willing to sit on there for us, and if Tom's willing to put his name forward for the board, let him.
Jason?
Yeah, I think I'm an alternate now. I sort of agree with what Ben says, because even though it appears to be a losing battle, you still have to show up. And I think just throwing in the towel, they're just going to continue doing what they're doing. It could be a lost cause, but it's one of those things. It's not going to be something that's going to demand a great deal of my time, so I'm willing to do it. So thanks.
I'd stay as an alternate. When I think about this from the perspective of the CMRB and the servicing end of it and what we've talked about there with future water allocations and stuff, there's importance to be there too. Kind of get an ear to what's happening, because the push is to try to get some more license from the bow. So there's some arguments to be made that should be more allocations there too. So might be a different perspective to look at it from, because it's all for the, that's what drives the community's water. So
I'll stay as an alternate.
So if we have two people, Scott said he would stay as an alternate. Or Glenn, do you want to sit? There's two seats, yeah, and
I'm in the red here. Ben's comment, you don't see much.
yeah, I saw that actually.
I've drove by it 3 times before I finally,
I saw it too.
So at this point, I think we have Eichert is on the Bow River and Wilson is an alternate. So
So just leave it as 1 and 1?
it's up to council if you want to have another member there, but.
He'll stay as alternate? Yep. Okay. So all councillors Eichert and Clausen. And Glenn, is that all right?
Yep.
Okay.
So Glenn, do you want Red Deer then?
Okay, so for Red Deer, we currently have Jason and Scott, with Tom as the alternate for the Red Deer. Glenn has expressed interest. Do we feel like we need 2 representatives there?
I'm not, I'm on the other side of the county. I'm on the south end. I don't even know. I'm good with getting, like, I'm not on that one. That one's not me.
I could be an alternate for it if we wanted to go to 1.
Okay. You want to go as well, Scott, and then?
Yeah, and Bow River had a tour, but I wasn't able to go.
Tom, do you want to remain as alternate? Okay, thank you. So it looks like from the last one, the Disaster Services Committee no longer exists. Is that accurate?
It exists, but it's in bylaws, so it depends on where the disaster is, so we don't need it on here as identified, so.
It was just on our old one. Fire protection committees was previous, it is local councillors represent, so that would be on your fire associations and things like that.
Yeah, I have a question, Alan. We were talking about setting up a fire committee,
Yes,
but it's not on here.
it's because I don't have direction from council, so if it's okay with you, Councillor Wilson, if you go through these, if you want to make a motion after to have administration bring back some thoughts on a fire committee, that would be probably the best process.
All right. Strathmore Handy Bus. We currently have Donna sitting with Jason as alternate.
I would actually enjoy, after going to a meeting, I'd really enjoy taking that.
Yep. Okay. Would you stay as alternate, Donna, or would you like?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Now, municipal,
So, sorry, we changed.
they're just switching.
Switching?
Yep. Municipal Planning Commission with a little bit of bylaw passing and repealing and back. Are we happy with having all of council continuing to sit? Okay, at the present time, and we will address the chair and vice chair at the first MPC meeting. South Region ASB, it says member appointment to this committee no longer required.
I'll continue to sit on it, though.
Okay. And who did we have as alternate? Ben, you were alternate? Yeah.
Is it not usually the chair and then the
Oh, okay.
vice chair? I thought.
Because it's no longer required.
Margaret? Yeah, does everybody want a 5-minute break? Donna has requested. Margaret just has a note for us for the South Region ASB Committee.
I can speak
Or
to
Jason can speak to it.
The reason they changed it, it is now the fieldman, so Russ, and then the ASB chair. And to be honest, that meeting, we were gone, how long were me and Russ gone for? Oh yeah, like 20 minutes tops, and they went through agenda, no questions, and then we left. So there was nothing to report on.
All right, so that will be addressed at our ASB committee meeting when we appoint a chair there. Strathmore Chamber of Commerce. Or Strathmore and District Chamber of Commerce.
I really enjoyed it, but I think it will work a lot better if we put Donna on there, because trying to coordinate the economic development and going through a second person like myself is going to be difficult. So I would prefer not to be on the board. I'll stand as an alternate if necessary, because I sort of know what's going on, but I definitely don't want to be the go-to person there.
Donna, does that work for you?
Yeah.
Now, we previously had 2 alternates. Do we need to continue? Was there a rationale for that? No?
An alternate can't make it.
Alternate. Okay. So let's have Donna sit on that and Tom can sit as alternate. Community Futures Wild Rose. I would like to continue sitting on that if that's the will of council.
Sorry.
I wouldn't mind
think-
sitting as alternate. I've used the program before, so
Okay.
it's very helpful. Unless Donna, you still want to be alternate on Community Futures? Doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I did, the one thing about community futures, it does kind of sometimes go into, but, I mean, I know Wendy.
Like the library.
Oh, would you?
No, not at all.
To stay on? Okay.
Okay, so we'll leave that as is. Yeah. Marigold Library Committee.
I'd love to be, not at all, not at all. Pass.
I am currently on the Marigold Library Committee, but Amber has made most of the meetings. I made
Has quite
maybe
the
one.
passion.
Yeah, and has quite the passion for the library, so I was going to give that up.
I'm happy to sit.
Okay.
And they're not as frequent, like they meet 4 times a year. It's not a huge time commitment. Will you go as alternate?
Sure.
Okay, because they really do, they've appreciated your input as well. Canadian Badlands.
I'd like to stay on it if
Sorry,
that's.
so
Me
we're
too.
going to switch?
So we currently had, I think, Glenn, Jason, and Donna. Is that correct?
Yes, I would. I'd like to stay on. I still want to try to get into be a director in there.
Yeah, she was tied with the director, and then we had to have another vote.
Glenn, do you want to continue? Sure. Anybody else? So we'll just leave that one as is.
There's no alternate because we actually have to send appointments in and they get to actually vote, so we
Oh,
don't
right.
send an alternate
Okay.
typically on that. So.
Thank you for that explanation. Strathmore Wheatland Addictions Team.
Just backing up one, sorry,
Sorry.
through the chair. Canadian Badlands, isn't one of their stipulations, one of the members has to be the reeve? I'm thinking, unless they've changed their policy, because it was that the one member had to be the reeve.
I believe that's what it was originally when we signed it.
Oh,
Margaret, do you want to check and we'll? Oh, it'll just be there. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ben. Well, we'll just let administration see if they can inquire into that. Strathmore Wheatland Addiction Team.
Amber, do you still think 2 counselors should be on there?
Yeah.
And I know I was there and it conflicted with a lot of the CMRP meetings, so
Yeah.
that had to take priority over that, so.
We did change the meeting date at the last meeting
Okay,
because you were at CMRB, I think.
Yeah.
I think it also worked better for our Alberta Health Services representative.
Okay.
So I believe they're going to be Fridays rather than the Thursdays. I would continue to sit on that if council desires. I don't know about Scott.
I would probably turn it down. I thought I'd have more interest in it,
Okay.
but sitting there, it's not my thing. And I'm just being honest.
Yeah, well, that's fair. It's, Scott and I were sitting last year.
What does it, like, what?
We do a meeting every other month, and it's basically community initiatives to promote awareness around addictions. So the current grant application that we just submitted was for a project where we're gonna put together kind of a family game tin, and it will go home with all grade 5 students with a copy of the 40 developmental assets. So it'll be some education for the family, some encouragement to connect as families, doing something fun, encourage discussion.
No, we need.
Or a second seat. It's primarily Strathmore and Wheatland.
If nobody wants to sit on it, I'll sit on it. Like Tom said, it's, I mean, it's not.
We could move to one, like Strathmore just sends one counselor. Anybody? Thanks. Would council prefer it go to one, or do we want?
Let's go to one,
Okay, Jason, or Scott, do you want to be alternate, or Jason, do you want to be
I
alternate?
can be alternate.
No, but I'm just thinking if we go to one, because we should try and have representation.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Is council in agreement? Okay, divisional meetings will just be local councillors. Wheatland Regional Corporation. So we currently have Glenn from council and Rex Harwood as a member at large. And we had Councillor Armstrong as the alternate.
How many do you have on?
We have 2 between Rex and Glenn. That had been circulated previously in email, I think, right? Is anybody from council interested in sitting?
Yeah, I appreciate where this letter is coming from, but I have looked back, and I think at the very most, I've got 2 reports, maybe 3 from Rex. I am not 100% sure that he's our, I expressed this a year ago. I really appreciate the job that the WRC has done. The pipeline is built, and now we're going into operations phase. And I have huge concerns. We are looking at just about $5 a cube water. And if we're, somebody's going to have to go in there, and it's going to be messy, but we have to protect the county's interests here, and that is keeping this corporation now as lean as possible, because my concern is $5 a cube water is going to turn into $6 really quick, because we have such little capacity. Like we're
Volume.
gonna, yeah, there's such little volume, and if this phase doesn't come off, going into the operations, that everybody's not looking at everything to make this thing as efficient as possible, I think we could be, I think it could be a bad thing. So that's my opinion. So I will put my name forward to be on the board.
If I may, through the chair, knowing Scott's background, and he's dealt with the water issue in multiple other municipalities, I'd also like to see him sit on the board.
Thanks, Jason. I was going to say that. I kind of get conflicted with it too, because I kind of run the bounds of what the knowledge base that I have versus what I'm hearing sometimes. And my interests are in an efficient operation. I found out some other things recently in regards to calibrations of equipment and stuff that were Alberta environment spec, which has changed recently. Like I still have an ear to what's going on. I have an ear to the inspectors. I know them. I know a lot of things like that, and I'm not trying to fault anything from anybody in the past, but again, like Tom said, and I'll reiterate, it's changed from construction to running, and I don't fault any of the construction part. I have the same concerns as Tom. We've pushed the issue hard, and we've finally got some traction at the last little while, and I know you fought hard for that too as well. And that was a concern that, to me, would have been a year ago. It should have been like that. There should have been concerns addressed. There's some concerns over the funding for at least $1 million that we haven't even talked about. And I don't know what's going on with, there was a brief mention at the last meeting, WRC, what's going on, but as a council representative sitting here right now, I have concerns before that even ask would come. That some questions need to be answered, and that's because it's public money, and that's where I stand.
I've been on the board it started. I've been on the water since it started, near 14 years or 13 years. We finally got it built. I hear the concerns. There was no prior numbers we could rely on to set a budget in the first place. The budget was set on, really wasn't a budget set. We're just going through that process now. The $1 million that Scott's talking about is startup money that is needed to finish, to pay for components of the construction that weren't covered by Waters for Life. And I talked to council about that in the past, that we are, as the major contributor, as the major municipality to the organization, we're going to have to either sign for the loan, make them a loan, or grant them the money to finish off that construction phase. Some of the construction phase money that was not, you couldn't use, was for the general manager. His wages were not covered by Waters for Life. He was the construction foreman. He's the one who got it built. He's the one who got it in under budget. He's definitely was worth his weight in gold for sure. As far as moving forward, the price of water didn't make the last meeting, but I hear it's in that, maybe it's under the $4 range now. $4.81. I had some concerns what was in that budget on the email I got. I think some of that other stuff, some of that money in that price of water should be in a different category. For one, you don't pay depreciation on as an expense, and you don't include it with reserve money. It's either one or the other. Like, reserve money is for depreciation. I think, and there's some trimming can be done there with the numbers. Thinking the board as it is open and receptive now to doing changes. They weren't as receptive as before since the light finally come on. But yeah, I definitely want to stay on it. I would like to see it finished through to its first budget and its first audited statement. After that, then it's in my area. And Rosebud, they're actively, I know there's letters been sent and it'll probably come to council. Do we want to continue the line to Rosebud? And yeah, so yeah, it's a growing process. I can argue the point all day for the workers, staff we have. It's the same staff that was at the county that's been doing the water for years. They're actually doing more now because they got a couple other municipalities involved. Yeah, I think it'll come. It's growing pains for sure.
So in terms of process, if we have 3 councillors that are interested in a seat and 2 seats on a board, what's the process in the past for that?
Well, in the past, couple of years ago, I guess, it was the members that were appointed were permitted to go, and the alternate would go only if one of the members weren't there. Now, I believe last fall with the new council, you said for 6 months, you're going to get some knowledge of the boards and that. You're going to permit the alternates to attend all meetings. They obviously wouldn't represent the county when it came time to vote, but they could be there to gain information. So that's a council decision. If you want to continue with that, you can. But we only are, the way the bylaw is written for WRC, we're only allowed 2 voting members.
Yeah, no, I understand that. My question is, like, if, I don't know if I have no idea. Maybe you can come to consensus through discussion, but if you have 3 sort of people interested in 2 positions, would that come to a vote? Or is it through discussion?
Yes.
Okay, through a vote.
Ultimately, if you can't come to consensus, you would do a vote, yeah.
Can we come to a consensus?
Through the chair, we're talking 2 members, voting members. One is not here. And my concern with over the years, when we sit here as a council and discuss the issues that we're discussing right now, we've got 1 board member that isn't here, doesn't know where we're coming from, doesn't have a clue what he's only available at the meeting. So to me, it makes more sense. I know what the minister said, but I don't think the minister was right. I think until this thing gets up and running, and it's not there yet, it's not complete, there's still Rosebud, there's still Hazard, we still got construction to deal with over the, so for me, it makes more sense if we have 2 members of council and 1 alternate, and put it through it by a motion or whatever, that the alternate attend the meetings with then they all 3 of them are understanding what's going on. The alternate doesn't get to vote, but he certainly understands what's going on, so that when they do, he does have to sit there. Because that was my problem when I went as an alternate. I was trying to catch up, and let's face it, when they send me the minutes, I go through them like this, but I'm not sitting there at that discussion meeting after meeting after meeting. So to me, it makes more sense to have 2 councillor and 1 alternate than a motion to allow the alternate to attend the meetings with them.
I agree too. Some things, like, it is in your area, I understand that, but it is also subsidized by every resident of the county. Anything we do with water and infrastructure is subsidized. And I represent people that are put tax dollars into that probably aren't even aware of that. My interest is in efficiency, and so I can sell it, and I can go out and say, yeah, we're doing this and we're doing it the most efficient way, and here's the benefits that we're doing this. I can't honestly say that right now. I can't honestly, I just can't. And I don't want to sit that way. I have a lot of experience in things in operations, and I could sit there as an alternate or even an advisor, and I know Tom and I have had many conversations looking at things back and forth to see if numbers are this or numbers are that. The Aqua 7 line, I was involved in that from the start, from a different municipality, and these same questions were asked right from the start. The same number value came, $3.40, right from the start. And that information I said back then, and I'll say it now, the water use has not changed. You know how much the project costs, you know how much water you're selling. It's not a hard calculation to figure out. It's operations, it's labor, it's things like that. And there is some technical stuff with the last meeting I was at. There was even some changes at the last minute that greatly affected the dollar value per cubic meter, that I even questioned some of the other information. And that was like right as we're coming into the meeting. It's almost like it wasn't taken seriously enough. I think it is serious. I mean, the cost of water affects, if we want to have Gleason grow, we want to put some money in there. Are we going to subsidize the water? How much it is? How much are we? You need to have that cost low so you can sell that area.
Well, through the chair, this is turning into a council discussion. I'll put a motion on the floor that 2 councillor and 1 alternate from council sit as board members, and that the alternate be allowed to attend the meetings with the councillors.
I don't think we need that motion.
I think we need
I'm
names.
hearing that what I'm hearing is we have 3 councillors interested in 2 positions. Oh, sorry. It was on. What I'm hearing is we have 3 councillors interested in 2 positions, so I think we may need to go to a vote for this committee, or for this board. Is that accurate? Okay. So if we could have ballots So we'll be voting for two positions between Councillor Eichert, Councillor Clausen, and Deputy Reeve Kester.
Whoever gets the highest two votes would be the members, and the other one would be the alternate. Is that how you?
Is that in
Through,
agreement with
through the
council?
chair, to the three members that have put their name forward, if the alternate is allowed through council to attend all the meetings with the councillors, do we care who sits on the board as a voter? That's my question. What I'm saying is we allow all three to attend the meetings.
But will we do that permanently?
They,
It's usually on. I'm gonna have it. Anyway, yeah, I agree with Ben. There'd be three of us there. I'm sure we're gonna vote as a block, and it'd be the three of us deciding what we're going to vote on. And if there's only two of us there, we don't have to worry what's what. And we only get the two votes. It's as simple as that. And as far as alternates coming to meetings, there's always an alternate or two from other municipalities showing up anyway. I don't think that is a problem. And I've never heard of any comments from the board, because we've had councillors from this council going that weren't even alternates, and they were showing an interest. So that part don't matter. And as far as who votes and who doesn't vote is a matter that we can beat each other out at the meeting, yeah.
and if there's the other thing that allows is if you allow the two board members and the alternate to go with the board members, if there's an in-camera issue, the alternate also gets to sit in camera.
So my question is, the alternate allowed free and equal time at WRC to make, because I may have totally different points than Scott or whatever, and I may pick up something that is, so I want to know, I understand that we vote for the county. I understand that. But is the alternate going to just be there just as an observer, or is the alternate going to be able to talk to the board when they have concerns?
Can I speak to it, Glenn? Yeah, so back probably a year ago, I think it was a request of this council, and I brought it up at the meeting, and the chairman at the time, who was Darcy Burke, who is still the chairman, and that could change, I guess, when they have their annual meeting, but I requested, can all of our councillors attend, any of them? He said, no problem whatsoever. And to my knowledge, the meetings I've been at, I believe anybody's been able to speak. Even administration were allowed to speak there. It's not like the CMRB. Unless something changes down the road, I can't see that being an issue. So the only thing is that when it comes time to vote, if you're contrary, if you're the alternate, Tom, and you're contrary to what Scott and Glenn are saying, you wouldn't get to vote. You're only going to get 2 votes. You can put your hand up, but the chairman should not acknowledge your vote. But you should be able to talk. And the chairman, and when Rex is co-chaired, they've been able to let anybody speak, because there's been representatives from other municipalities, as Glenn mentioned, speak as well on behalf of their municipalities. So.
Just one note, that did change a little bit, because at the first meetings we were at, I've only been to a couple of them, but at the one meeting we sat kind of separate, and we weren't, I don't think, welcome to address the board. I think you guys were there with it. Do you remember? We sat like separately, and it may have just been my perception.
Presently, the alternates from the other municipalities speak at will. And if it was to come that they only want the voting members, then I don't see a problem. We'll just let 2 of us speak at every issue. We don't need to have the 3 speaking, unless you want to have a vote.
I think at this point, it's certainly different than the CMRB. CMRB is a different kettle of fish, but this one, Darcy's been very respectful of letting anybody speak, because he's even gone around the table, you know, with administration. And so I didn't get that sense. Well, but the ones before, I didn't get that sense, aside from maybe you weren't sitting at the table, you were in the audience, but that's, I think, because there was too many numbers there, but I don't know. Because I've sat right beside Darcy at a couple of the meetings. So I don't, my feeling is it hasn't been that way in the past. Maybe that's where it's heading, I don't know.
So through the chair, And I agree with Alan. You've already been able to communicate. My concern is where we're going as a council. We're worrying too much about who's going to vote. I'm saying we send the 3 representatives there. They all get the information. They all know what's going on. When it comes time to vote, if they're voting in opposition to each other, then it better come back here and have an open discussion as to why that's happening, so it doesn't, so.
That's fine, Ben, but this council needs to notify WRC of who are their voting members.
That's right. There's 2 members that will vote, and they should only recognize those 2. We do the same thing with SAWA. The same thing happened there. And the other ones are ready, but when it comes to the time to the vote, there's only the vote recognized for 1 per member. So I think I'm just saying we got to be cautious on what we're doing to ourselves here. We're saying let them all go, let them get the information they need, so that when the vote comes, the 2 that are doing the voting, and if there's controversy in there, then it should come back here and we'll discuss it at length, and then it can go back to the CPR or not CPR, the WRC as a united front, so we don't want to seem there all the.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Ben, and like any committee, the members that sit representing Wheatland County, if they see there's dissension or not everybody's on the same page, you can always make a motion saying, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to make a motion to defer this to a future meeting, so you've got time to bring it back to the council. It's always in your power to do that. You only have 2 votes, there's 3 other votes, so you could get outvoted, but that would be reflected in the minutes, so that's another option.
You had a comment?
Okay, so after this discussion, I will stand as the alternate. I will be at every meeting, but I will stand as the alternate.
Okay. That's good with everybody?
Can I just make one other?
Of course.
So at the end of all the committee appointments, we're looking for one motion, but as far as the alternates, how you want to deal with those, I think the past, last year, there was a 6-month, but if you want to make it WRC, the alternate always attends on some of those key ones, that's up to council how you want to do it. So you want to have a discussion after the vote, so.
You bet. Sewa. We currently have Councillor Armstrong sitting with Councillor Wilson as alternate.
I'll stay as alternate.
Ben, you'll continue representing us? You do a phenomenal job. Well, we appreciate your work on it, so thank you. Kraz. I know there's been some discussion regarding this. Please.
And I probably shouldn't, but I've said it before ever since I've been here. I don't think CRAS has any benefit whatsoever. I've said this before a number of times. Glenn and Ben have heard it too many times. That's all I'm going to say.
Through the chair, I think the province has pulled their funding for CRAS.
So do we need a motion to not be on there or just not appoint anybody?
As far as funding pulled, I don't know, because the CMRB, there's been a mention of CRAS being a tool that they're going to use. So
But the government stepped up and said they were cutting that.
I'm perfectly okay with having it, like, I don't think we need to give them anything.
Membership is $750 a year. If you're not a member, then you wouldn't participate. If we don't say anything, they're going to ask for their $750. And I went through that when I first got here. I made a recommendation for council to not approve it. They did not approve it. CRAS wanted to come and talk to council, and then council changed and which is fine. I mean, that's you guys' perspective. So we can handle it many different ways. We can not, our council can not appoint someone or give direction that we're not going to be members, and I can let them know, and they may request to come and speak to you folks. Then I guess that's fine too. That's in the right. So
at this meeting, if we didn't appoint someone, and then would we put it on a council agenda to discontinue our membership? Would that be appropriate?
You can do it that way for sure.
Or do the membership here?
Do the membership here too. You can make a motion and here as well.
So, but through the chair, to what Scott has said, we have used them in the past. Have they not come out and done some monitoring for us? Would that still be available if you weren't a member, or would you have to pay over and above for that?
There would be a premium for that, but I believe it still would be available from my understanding. Of course, you wouldn't get the availability as we do now as a member, but So there is other companies that can do that too, right? So,
I know they've provided some signage around the county too. There's anti-idling signs with their logo on it and stuff at various sites. We'd keep those? Okay. Okay, we paid for them, okay. Your motion about taking us off, I'd support that for sure. Just don't see the value there.
Should we break until Councillor Wilson's back to vote? Any further discussion? There's a motion on the floor from Glenn. Do you want to reiterate your motion?
What?
It's why I waited for you to return. I knew you'd be heartbroken. All in favor of the motion on the floor, unless there's discussion? Carried. So we will not appoint any councillors to that
Thank God.
committee. Wheatland Regional Partnership Committee, we have all councillors appointed to that. Alberta Care, we have Councillor Armstrong.
What is Alberta Care?
You're the trash guy, eh?
Alberta Coordinated Action.
Okay.
And we don't have an alternate. We don't require one for that. There's no alternate for that. That's fine. Okay.
wonder, when do they meet? 2 or 3 times a year, Ben?
Yeah, one annual meeting.
Teleconference.
I wonder, would it be beneficial to have an alternate, Ben, to back you up? I mean, you generally are able to make the meetings, but, so it's up to council if you want to appoint an
Well, I'll
alternate.
do that because I'm second trash guy on everything else.
So if council's in agreement, we'll have Jason sit as alternate for that. Emergency Management
One
Committee?
One comment.
Of course.
Been to a couple of the AGMs of CARE, and they're very interesting. They keep that in mind for, I think, all, it's beneficial for all council to go to the AGMs.
Right. Was in northern Alberta, and then they moved to the south, and that's when it was actually through Russ Munsrath, through the Ag Plastics and that he asked me if I would sit on their board. So I said I would, and I've been on there ever since. So they have a conference in northern Alberta, and then they have a spring one down here. And a lot of times they cover the same materials, one way or the other, so I usually attend both of them, but there's no need to attend both. The other one is a little closer to deal with. Yeah, they're interesting. It's all about recycling and.
Okay, thank you. Emergency Management Committee, the notes say Reeve and 1 councillor. I noticed last year it was Reeve and Deputy Reeve. I don't know.
Did it even meet last year? I'm trying
Only
to
meet
remember.
if there's an incident. I would like to keep it as Reeve and Deputy Reeve, and no offense to anybody, but Glenn does have experience dealing with the media and that, so it's nice to have that backup for you.
Could there be an addition to that, that if it's an issue in one of the divisions, that the division counselor also be involved if it's an emergency issue?
Certainly. So what's happened in the past, I think everybody kind of experienced part of I try to notify everybody, all of council, but technically we only need the 2 to sign in. So, but I think in the past we've had one instance where I think it was the deputy Reeve wasn't available, so I called in another counselor, and that was the counselor from the area. So that's not a problem at all.
Economic Development Board, Donna, you're willing to continue? I can continue as alternate if that's, unless somebody else would like to.
I'd actually like to be alternate.
Okay,
That's
that would be
okay.
great, yeah.
I'm on Canadian Badlands.
Yeah, that would
If
be
that's
excellent.
if that's still true.
Perfect.
Not that an alternate does much, but I've sat in on one of the meetings too.
Yeah. Strathmore Rec Facility Development Committee.
I'm thinking that we've been allowed to have 2 people sit on the board, and I think it's probably a waste of one of the people's times.
Oh, okay.
It is very, it's going to be a very Strathmore-centric
Yes.
thing, so I think basically I'd stay as an alternate and recommend Donna be the go-to person on this. And, because I don't think, like I said, they're putting together their recreation plan and all that kind of stuff, and it is very Strathmore-centric, and they'll come to us when they need money.
Oh, you guys.
Donna, are you good with that?
Yeah, I was thinking that he was going to say he was going to be on it. And I'd go alternate. Yeah, yeah.
If you don't want it,
No.
Donna, I'm sure Tom will sit.
Yeah, like, yeah, I will still sit,
You know,
yeah,
I was there and you know.
but I'm just trying to save some time here, just because it's not, it's one committee, and it's not gonna be the, so it's basically, we're just trying to protect,
I just think you have
help.
more,
Or residents might utilize the
yeah,
services?
Exactly.
I'll be glad to stay on.
Okay.
Through the chair, just as a question, is this strictly this one we built out here, or is this all Strathmore Recreation?
That's all of, that's.
And
how
I'm
they
thinking
want
with the letter that we got from the town of Strathmore, and you're gonna drop your representation on that committee?
But it's,
Doesn't make sense to me.
but it's not,
that.
it's,
Voting spots?
no,
Not
no, there's
yet.
not. There's gonna be, once the, right at, let's try this in English. Right now, they are just getting consultants, or trying to hire a consultant to put together the sports, the recreation plan for the.
Great.
And so, right now, it is what is included in this, how far-reaching is this thing and all this kind of stuff, right? And the way, from what was discussed and what was passed at the meeting, is it's going to be Strathmore and Strathmore borders only. Like, so at this point in time,
So then why are we gonna give them that?
no, but it's because they have to sort of sit down, and it's not a comprehensive of what Strathmore uses and what people use of Strathmore, because they're just trying to limit the void, because they decided that there's people from Langdon that use Strathmore facilities, so are they gonna do that? And they decided that's too big of an outreach, so that will have to be encompassed somewhere along, which will be another committee, which will take in the villages, which will take in the hamlets and all that kind of stuff.
Wow, collaboration from.
Yeah, so, but at this point in time, this committee is basically the people in the immediate area that use the Strathmore facilities. And so we need representation on the committee, because we need to find out what those numbers are, like whether or not their numbers are right, whether it's like 30% of the county uses Strathmore facilities and that kind of stuff. Right now, this committee, I think, is basically a protection. We're protecting our area, so that when an ask comes to us from the town of Strathmore, that we know that it's a legitimate ask, so.
So long as when that time comes and they do set up a voting board, that we have fair representation then. They're not just gonna carry on with the one Wheatland County rep on that board.
But I'm not sure how this is going forward, how this is going to go, because we're all aware of this ask that is coming, that has been submitted. And that is going to be kept in council here. We're either going to decide on it or not decide on it, or we're going to let CMRB decide on it, and then we follow along with it, so.
So if my understanding is correct, this Strathmore Recreation Committee is more of an advisory committee, and any decisions will be made at a council level from both municipalities. So we're not really jeopardizing our voting position by reducing our representation on that advisory committee.
But
No.
as Tom said, part of the servicing recreation is in there. It's pretty low on the list right now, but I could see it changing. Because,
Definitely.
they all talk recreation at some point, and I mean, the servicing is all part of that too, right?
But that,
Strathmore being in there, they're gonna have to answer to that at some point too. That's where you kinda, are we duplicating services? Right now, I don't know. It's good to have a start of it, but it may be taken over.
but is there any talk of them like changing those borders and going outside of Strathmore? When does that start? When is that going to be?
Sorry, the, anytime, and this is the way I look at it, is anytime there's going to be money asked from the county to support recreation in the town, it has to be a two-way street, right? Because there's an awful lot of facilities that they're using that are outside of this. So where the horse trading is, I don't know. But right now, this committee is just setting up guidelines for what Strathmore recreational requirements are going to be 20, 30 years down the road. So, but like on this committee, there's no one is saying, well, we need $3 million from the county of Wheeland or anything. There's nothing like that. This is just, as Amber said, is an advisory thing. So I don't like I'm fine. I'm just thinking that having two members there is probably, like I said, a waste of one member's time, because a good report should cover everything. So this is Strathmore. This is Strathmore we're dealing with.
So I think that's something we can work on maybe within the regional partnership. But for now, I do think it's important that we have representation on that committee because of our ratepayers that use those facilities. And so that we have that liaison, like you said, that reporting back to council and you're involved in those discussions. So if council's in favor, let's move it to one representative, which would be Tom, and Donna would stay as an alternate? Yeah. Okay. So Calgary Metropolitan Regional Board, I will sit as Reeve with Deputy Reeve Kester as alternate. I should be, I'll double check. Do you want me to? I'll check as soon as we're done this. Yeah, you bet. CMRB Land Use Committee, we had Councillor Eichert representing. Is there anybody else? Okay, thank you, Tom. And the CMRB Intermunicipal Servicing Committee, Scott is representing. Okay. CMRB Advocacy Committee.
So, I have not been involved in CMRB anywhere. Able to, so I know what's going on, but I don't know. The advocacy, has it even started?
It hasn't. They haven't met at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Glenn.
I've talked to interim CAO,
He's
Jordan.
now the CEO.
Is he
Or
now the CEO?
Chief Officer, yes.
Okay, got hired last meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. I talked to him about the advocacy committee, and that was at the last board meeting I made. I missed the last one. He told me that he was been extremely busy with the intern growth management plans, and after that was done, his attention was going to turn to the advocacy committee. So I would expect soon you'll be getting some notes from him, is the indication I got from him anyway, that it's been on hold as his workload. I don't know if anybody's heard.
Could I just say one thing? I think the advocacy committee council did appoint Councillor Link at the time. I strongly would encourage you to keep that appointment the way it sits right now. I think just for the continuity and the fact that you have been involved in some of the advocacy things, even though they haven't met yet. So I think it would be important to do that. But.
We will, as a board, like work together to be aware of what's happening there and get input that I can take back or Tom or Scott can take back as well.
I just want to state too, viewing the other municipalities that are at the table, they generally have the same person go through all the committees.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real strength that we don't have that, because it brings different, it's not one person.
They actually, even that came up at the board meeting
I think it's a
on
great
Friday.
strength that we brought
They
forward.
said it was a strength that Wheatland had
Yeah.
multiple representatives, and I think other municipalities may be considering that, but I'm not sure if any changes will be forthcoming. CMRB governance,
Oh, sorry, so the advocacy is no alternate? Sorry.
I can sit on governance,
Glenn?
or do you?
If
Yeah,
I may.
please.
I would suggest keep Deputy Reeve
continue on
Kester
it?
on there. I think that would be, because he's built some strong ties with,
Yeah, that would
if
be
he's okay
excellent.
with that. But
Thank you, Glenn. So there's a separate form for the IDPs and ICF, so if we could have a motion to approve the committees as discussed. Thanks, Tom. All in favor?
Friendly amendment that, with the exception of the Regional Water Corp, that the 3 members attend all meetings.
Let's do a separate motion for that. If that, or we can do it in the same one.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I am getting there. There's 2 other things, so I was gonna ask for a motion for that. Let's do that now. You so move? All in favor? We did, yeah. It was passed. Sorry.
So Armstrong moved.
And do we feel like we need any alternates attending? We don't have a lot of change, like how we did at our first organizational meeting? No? Okay. The last thing under committees is we have had some discussion at council. All in favor of Ben's motion? Yeah, I think we did, but that's all right. There has been discussion at previous council meetings regarding creating a fire bylaw, so we would need or a fire committee. So we would need a bylaw to create that committee, and we would need some terms of reference. I don't know if we could ask staff to create that.
what we do is we can bring back some options.
Sure.
On how you want it. I think I understand how some of the councillors want it structured, but we can bring back some options for sure.
I'd make the motion to direct staff to do exactly what that man just said.
Okay. All in favor of Scott's motion?
Would that committee be,
So it
I'd make
would
a motion
be
to direct staff.
an RFD for options for a fire committee.
would that fire committee be by bylaw
Yes.
or just a committee?
Yeah, in regards to the committees, in the Municipal Government Act, they should be done by bylaw, so it would be by bylaw, solidified in there. And I have talked to the associations at the couple of occasions, and I think Councillor Lincoln, or Reaver Link and Councillor Wilson talked to them at the one meeting we had, and also at the capital meeting. I talked to the association, and they all seem it would be prudent to do that. And how often it would meet and that, I guess we'd bring back to council. But I'm kind of envisioning at least twice or maybe 4 times a year that this group would meet and just see if there's any other matters aside from capital. One of them probably would be a capital meeting. One would be, who knows, right? Yeah, everything like that. And they all seem very open to that at this point, not knowing a lot of the details. Obviously, when the details get hammered out, and there might be some more discussion. But I think it's a positive step, I think.
I would agree, but I'd also request that as you're collaborating with our associations and we are doing our fire service, I'd like to have the 2 bylaws come at the same time. So everybody's on board and we don't run into the same pickle we were in the past.
Just to clarify, you're talking about the committee bylaw and the
Yeah.
fire services bylaw. Okay.
I think there was reference to the one in the one bylaw, so it would kind of direct it to that, because it makes reference to a fire service committee at some point.
Yeah, so at this point, the motion that Councillor Clausen's made for us to bring back, so we'll bring back some options and we'll see how the fire services bylaw goes. I think they will mesh together because I don't think it'll take a lot of time to put there's other counties that have fire bylaws that would fit into this fire committee bylaws.
So Foothills,
I can just put a motion on the floor because I assume that we're just going to carry over.
There will
No?
be some changes on there.
Other
so
than
if
the
we
first
could-
three?
If we could go through them, not all of them are going to change, but some of them will. So just to clarify where we're at, I think it would be important to do that. So Division 3 would still stay, I would suggest, and the Reeve and an alternate would be the Deputy Reeve. Vulcan, similarly, because again, they bound under Division 3. With Newell, Division 1 and Division 7 bounder that. Alternate would be the Reeve. Rocky View, Division 4, and alternate, do we want to keep that as Division 3, or does council want to, because there is a boundary there, so that one probably should stay the same? Pardon? Division 4 and Division 5 are currently, and alternate is Division 3. Okay, so the only other one I thought on that is because the Division 4 councillor is in the CMRB, you could change to him and make him alternate and have Division 3 as the contact on that one. And the only reason I say that is because we are working on the IDP with Rocky View. And because of Carsland and Goldfinch ASP, that might be a little bit higher on their agenda to try to, some of the discussions we've had haven't really identified that too much, but I think that might be coming up. But if not, that's fine. So we're good with moving that? Alternate would be Division 4 and Division 3 would be, okay? 3 and 5. Nehill, Division 6 and 7. Alternate would be Reeve. I think that probably needs to change to 5 and 7. Oh, no, just a minute. Okay, no, it's 6 and 7 and alternate would be Reeve. Yeah, okay, that's right, yeah. Siksika, 1 and 2 and alternate Division 3. I'm not sure if we want to change that to Reeve, Deputy Reeve, and a division counselor. That's it's a good political way to explain it. Yeah. Well, right now, be Division 3 then. Or 1. So Division 3, okay, as the alternate. Drumheller is Division 7 and the Reeve, with the alternate Deputy Reeve. Special areas, 7, Reeve, and alternate is Deputy Reeve. Strathmore, we don't require any because that's taken care of through the CMRB. Standard, Division 1, because it's in your area, Reeve, and alternate is Deputy Reeve. Rockyford, Division 6, Reeve, and Deputy Reeve is alternate. Oh, that should say alternate, I think. Who else would be Rockford? Alternate would be Division 5. Thank you. I'm getting all mixed up here. Hazar is Division 7, and Reeve, and alternate is Deputy Reeve. And then the Calgary Metropolitan Board we've kind of already gone through, so I think that's covered. Did you get all this, Mark?
Just a fun little fact, I was talking to
Next on the agenda is a request for decision for the Economic Development Board.
So because the appointment of the members comes up in March of 2019, just direction from council to advertise for members, and then the appointment of the members will be taken care of thereafter.
I have a question. There's been numerous issues brought up on the Economic Development Board that I believe, talking to BJ, Diane, Tracy, and I think we've seen what it can do to Donna sometimes. I think there's a big issue with a person on the Economic Development Board. And I think it would run much smoother with that person off.
We know when that term expires.
That's what this motion's all about. It expires in March. So the direction, if given today, would give us the opportunity to advertise and bring back recommendations for members in January to council so that the appointments could be made at the proper time. And then they'll be in sync with the org meeting. Originally, when the Economic Development Board was put together, it was put together as an ad hoc, and then there was frame terms of reference put together following that. So that's why it's like that. So the appointment would be likely in sync with our ASB, as an example, where they'd be 3 years and maybe 2 years so that they stagger. So we'd have new members.
So all members are at large terms expire this March.
That's correct.
Are you okay waiting for that procedure?
Are we okay waiting for that procedure?
Okay. BJ from Rosebud, Tracy Cornett, Marcy Fields, Diane Brown. So we need a motion in the package on page 35. You can just say you.
Sure, I still move.
Is that okay, Margaret? Yes. Okay. So Donna's moving that, like Alan said, that direct administration to proceed with advertising for Economic Development Board members based on the information provided.
We will notify the board members via email and CC yourself, Donna, as the council representative, letting them know that their term's expiring and will be going for advertising. They're more than willing to reapply. Doesn't mean they would be getting accepted. So. Okay.
As an alternate, can I get BCC'd on that as well?
All in favor of Donna's motion? Moving on to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. There's a recommendation in the package that recommends that council appoint the following individual: Jay Anderson, for a term commencing January 1st and expiring October 31st, 2021. Somebody want to make a motion? Tom? Is there discussion?
Job. I think he's got it on his shoulder.
All in favor?
Before I told him to run.
There's a recommendation on page 41, recommending that council appoint the following individuals to the Community Enhancement Regional Board. Somebody want to make a motion? Ben? Is there any discussion? All in favor? There's some dates noted under upcoming conferences and conventions: the spring convention for RMA in Edmonton in March, the fall convention in November, and FCM at the end of May in Quebec. Do we need motions approving attendance?
We have in the past, I think, Margaret, correct? Do you want the RMA separate from SCM, correct?
If I can.
Yeah, because RMA, I think in the past, all of council has gone. FCM council's only had 3 members go, so.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move that all of council attend both RMAs in Edmonton in 2019.
Discussion? All in favor?
Last 2. Oh, I was going to say, I better not be in.
Yes, it's covered in our
Yeah, thank you. And a motion for FCM. Okay.
Me, Glenn, and Donna.
Yeah, we're out.
Unless we pay our own ways, which it might be worth it. Depends if there's going to be a dock that Glenn can drive off. Yeah.
Wife's already told me if I don't go, she's gonna skin me.
That's some good motivation, right?
Can I have administration figure out what the cost is gonna be?
Oh, it's $1,100.
Just need to know that number. I gotta justify this in my head.
Yeah, the attendance is 1,000. And then the hotels are probably $200 easy in Quebec City for 4 nights. That's $800. The flight's probably 600. So you're looking at $3,000, and then your per diems.
But
So it's easy $5,000.
you get to listen to Elizabeth May.
My dilemma is this always falls on 4-H on parades, so once again, I either deal with family or deal with this, so I'd probably deal with family. Because it's 4-H on
I would
parade
attend
and
once just to help myself assess the value of going. I realize there is some networking, like on a
I think if I were to go again,
higher level.
I'd want to pay half the cost. I don't think it's.
Just so you know, it does work its way back to Western Canada. Eventually, I don't know what the time frame is. I should pull up the schedule. Yeah, it goes back. It
Except
hasn't.
last year was in the Maritimes, so.
Yeah. I think it's coming this way soon, like in Winnipeg or something.
Saskatoon is.
So
That's where I thought I'd be.
because it's in Quebec City, it might cost a little bit more, but it's still around that 4,000 minimum, right? Even when it was at Edmonton, it's
I
still.
do think it was worth it going to Nova Scotia, listening to political leaders, but the forums were very enjoyable. We didn't do any tours. We Didn't go out to see any rec facilities, anything like that. We spent our time at forums. What was the implementing Canadian infrastructure plan was a very good one, and then she spoke to it. Thorough crime was not what I wanted to hear, but I don't think I'll ever hear what I want to hear. So I think it was beneficial. $5,000 is a lot.
It's through the chair. It's interesting that we didn't used to belong, and then we went to FCM for support on an issue we were having with cables in our right-of-ways, and FCM to RMA or whatever, and the FCM went to the Supreme Court actually with that for us, and we started going down there, and I was surprised at the urban presence there, and the lack of rural, again, the lack of rural presence, but the rural sessions were very well attended when you compare them to the other ones, and there is a lot of information there, and there's a big difference down there what rural and urban is. A big difference to what they consider rural down in those countries as to what we consider rural. Hear some of the feedback that comes from. Wonder, you understand a little more why it's hard to get some of that money back. Once we send it down there, it's hard to get it back out in this country, I'll tell you. There's some pretty big demands down there. It is an interesting conference. It is very interesting.
We're socialists now.
Glenn?
Yeah, I agree. Alberta's probably the biggest supporter of the conference. Rural is really growing in the years. It was huge last year. I really like that. When we're dealing with costs, really, outside of the RMA, I don't know what the extra cost would be because we don't have mileage driving to Edmonton. We have a plane ticket. The conference itself is, I don't know if it's the same or not. Hotel rooms are the same. So yeah, when we're dealing costs, it's not, just because it's down there, it could be in Edmonton too, and we're paying mileage. It is probably somewhat more, but we're only sending 3. And FCM has been a huge supporter in the county. They've went to court for us. I think they've funded some of that island thing in Carsland, and they're helping out with Symbiotic and Rosebud. I'm not sure if they're involved in something else. Sewa? Yeah, so they are, they do support us. That's partly the reason why we joined up with them. They were supporting them and we weren't returning the favor. We're probably on the plus side. We're in the black for sure.
Scott?
I would go if I could. I'd love to go to it, but it's like I said, it's just the time. And if I can make a deal with the family, I'd go. So, something to other consider I wanted to bring up. And I know at the last convention, the RMA, they talked about EUMA joining. Has there ever been consideration from the county to send somebody to the EUMA convention? When you're talking about the urban-rural perspective, because you get a totally different, and I worked in that background, and I'm like I see both sides of it, but I think it'd be good to know what's coming. There is that push, and I think it's a different. I think it's a month earlier than ours, but it's a good. I was asked actually to go by some other councilors in other counties, and I just said I can't, but just something to consider. Not necessarily everybody, and especially with the CMRB, we're dealing with our partners differently now, so I think it would give us some different perspective too. Just a thought.
Discussion?
I don't have an issue with
So there is a membership to be members in RMA. There is a membership to be membership and have a membership in AUMA. It's not a lot. It's only a few $1,000s. FCM, there is a membership as well. It's probably about, I think it's around 18,000 if I remember right. I'd have to pull that out. And then you have to pay to go attend. So there is memberships for these as well. So that shouldn't be a deterrent, I don't think, but if you need that information, I can get that information and send it out, then you can have a better understanding of the full cost. Because you can't, I don't believe, to the best of my knowledge, you can't send members to the FCM unless you're a member. But like Ben said, there is programs that we have applied for and we continue to apply for through FCM that we can access grant funding. So that's Green Municipal Fund is most of those projects have been funded through. So maybe that's what I should do is maybe send out a little more information so you understand what the cost is to be an AUMA member and RMA member and FCM. So might be helpful.
Just Alan, at the last, I think it was the last RMA meeting, I think the mayor of Grand Cache was there, and he was invited there, so is there any way?
Greenview paid for the mayor of Grand Cache to be there, yeah.
Right, okay, like, I'm just wondering, because that'd be like. It wasn't Strathmore that asked. No, I know Strathmore ain't gonna pay for us either, but it'd be nice if that was, we could,
That's a way to handle it, because Greenview would go to the AUMA as well, on
Right,
the
and
town
then-
of Grand Cache.
So maybe we should maybe talk to the town of Strathmore,
And we'll
get administration.
give them a donation.
No, because it'd be good for them to come to the RMA.
Sure.
Just to see what
I
different.
don't want to spend a week.
So for moving
You
forward,
guys, be careful. There was a move here a few years ago, and it was a strong move to amalgamate AUMA and the UMA, and there was a big push to get that to happen. And I'll guarantee you, if you do an amalgamation, you are going to lose. So it's nice to know what's going on the other side, but don't get too,
Collaborative.
yeah. That's my redneck sticking out there a long way, but boy, you'll get your, never mind.
the issues are very diverse.
Yeah,
But it's,
kicked.
to coin a phrase, you have to know your quote unquote your enemy. I mean, like, and this is like, and to be ignorant about what are their issues doesn't serve us very well going forward. So I'm just, it may be, I'm not talking about amalgamating, I'm just talking about knowing it.
No, I know that, but
I
when you
would say-
mentioned going to Strathmore and talking to them and getting in bed with them on that side, if we're gonna do it on your own. You don't get in bed with them to do it.
I would agree with Ben, and I would just say, I know other counties that have attended AUMA. I don't know if they're necessarily members or not. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you're allowed to just attend and go. I don't understand, or if you have to be invited. Having a membership in there, probably not advised, but if we could go in a different way. And, because there's very similar issues. And,
Standard usually sends somebody.
yeah. And we do have, yeah.
We can be associate members, but we can't actually be members. Strathcona County, the specialized municipalities, the four, Strathcona County, Wood, Buffalo, Crow's Nest, I think they can be members of both, but as a county, you can only be an associate member of AUMA. And we were an associate member up till 2 years ago. And strictly for the point that they do an annual salary review. It used to be done by AMD&C, which is now RMA. They stopped doing it, so that's the reason why we kept a membership in AUMA. But I can get you all those details. I guess the other question I throw out there, do you want me to look at the First Nation memberships too? Because I think we can be, maybe not members, but we can attend those types of things as well. So throw that in there. Okay, sure. I'll do that then.
Do you want a motion to bring
No,
back
I can just get the information and just email it out to council. I think it'll be fine. So.
Do we want to make a motion for FCM now, seeing how we are
Well, who's on
members?
one?
I would like to attend. I'd like to go once and just see if there's value there.
There's 3 right there.
Tom, Ben, and myself. I don't think Crystal had threatened to skin you alive, though, like Terry. I didn't hear the alive part. I just assumed. Okay. There's a note. Oh, I don't think we had a motion. I think I just said, should we have one? Would somebody like to move that? Sure. Donna, discussion?
My question is, do we have hotels booked already?
FCM.
FCM? I would advise that we get them fairly
Yep.
soon. To Alan, is there, we know we do these, like with FCM and that, is, or do they hold you back and not allow you to do that? That as soon as one is over, you book it for the next go-round so that you're not,
Yeah, because last year was very challenging finding
as far as
accommodations.
hotels? Instead of waiting, like, we know we're gonna send
You're
3.
talking about FCM?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Problem is we get notifications
yeah.
and your rates.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was referring to, when they set up a block of rooms. If you book it before the block rooms, and then when they set up the block rooms and transfer it, can't you get that same?
I don't know. Because those rooms book up very.
Oh, I know they do. I know.
I think part of the issue maybe last year was in Fredericton or Charlottetown? Halifax. Oh, okay, well, Halifax should have enough hotel rooms, shouldn't it?
They didn't. I
They
know
only-
Strathmore was in like an Airbnb or something, because
We
there was
ended up
no.
last year being on a waiting list and we did end up getting rooms, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the most conservative.
Well, it shouldn't, but I just know years ago they used to, when with the AUMA, when the convention was over, the first week we were back here, we had our rooms booked for the following year. But they may have stopped that because of this blocking and that kind of stuff, but they used to book them a year ahead.
Glenn?
Oh, okay.
once, if we ever bow out and want to try somewhere else.
But that's easy because it's always in Edmonton though, right? These ones, they move. That's the problem, is we can't right, so.
Glenn, you had a comment?
Yeah. The rooms, I've talked to other counselors at this FCM. A lot of municipalities book way in advance, and they have no regard for that. And I know the room we were at last year, we paid the convention rate, which was $200. I don't know what it was. It was more than double stay an extra night. And that's what the other people are paying.
The day before
Just
and
by
the day after,
double, yeah.
we tried to get.
It's not a fault of Margaret, but I think it's everybody else's pre-jumping, booking, putting a strain on the system.
I can certainly do it if it will double.
Do we have a
If you
motion?
have a hotel in mind, please let
So Donna made a motion. Is there further discussion? All in favor?
Guarantee you guys won't have as much fun as we do.
No kidding. There's a note. Do you have additions to our binder?
get your binders to me, then I
Okay.
can update them.
Perfect. So we just need a motion to adjourn. Oh, please.
Doing a legislative policy.
When they were doing legislative policy, council remunerations in there. I don't know if councilors aware, come the 1st of January is changing. And it's going to have a financial impact on me. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm guessing it'll be the same. And I'm thinking, in the past, we've had a ad hoc committee run by the CAO. We review do the remuneration package, or council has to vote on it in the end. Or if council would like options, I know it's been in the RMA, that what different municipalities are doing. And at the Ag Service Board, I've had questions when I was up there what we're doing, and I know what other municipalities are doing too. I'm thinking for to be prudent to our ratepayers that we should, I would like to refer it to an ad hoc committee. And so we know before the 1st of January what's, if that's enough time for that, or.
Yeah, I think we discussed this, council discussed this a couple, maybe 3 months ago.
Okay.
We could certainly do that, not a problem. Whether it would be in place for January 1st, I kind of doubt it. I think the last one took us about 2 months to go through. So by the time we get members, we'd have to advertise for members on that. And we've got one member that's been standing on that committee for 2 or 3 years. So we could certainly do that. But I don't know that it'd be ready for January 1, but it could certainly be made retro to January 1.
I think the previous discussion we had too was when we were looking at the staffing review for salaries across. I think, was that when it had come up? Right. And that if the HR person could perhaps look at what other municipalities are doing simultaneously for council when they're looking at staffing. It's what I remember, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that's a good point, Glenn. Okay, all in favor?